Yes. Welcome back to episode 316 of the Purple Rain podcast. A lot of big news to talk about here, but first and foremost, you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain podcast. This guy above me on Instagram or on X at Sutton Def. Me, Instagram simply as10.product or on X simply as10. And most importantly, our sponsor, Manscaped. Go on there, use code PRP for 20% off your whole order and free international shipping. And yes, 316. So let me go through real quick. We had D'Anthony Thomas, Nick Murphy, David Reed, Yaman Figures, Quincy Adebayo, and most notably, most recently, the Tylan Wallace episode. Arguably one of the most clutch players on this Ravens team right now. But man, talking about clutch, hitting Jaire Alexander. The only news it feels like we have to talk about. He is a Raven. It did happen. I was overly confident about getting him for many reasons, but I'm glad it all came to fruition. I mean, there's not much more you can say.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head early here on this episode 316 of PRP. We are going to get into our Purple Rain report, but before we do that, let's go ahead and see who's here in the live chat, which we will have up for the duration of the stream, pretty much the whole duration of the stream. Minus a couple of segments or whatever. Dre says, "What's up, Purple Rain gang? What's going on, Dre?" We got Tanja Bowman in the house. Says, "What's up, fellas? Good evening. Good evening to you, Tanja, as well." So yeah, and as everybody else continues to trickle in here, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. If this is your first time here visiting the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, maybe you want to join the Rain Gang. Maybe you want to join the Rain Gang after you watch this episode. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you do. If you're watching on X, we love X as well. All of our people on there, shout out to you guys. But listen, man, we came here to talk about something very, very specific today. Something that just kind of came out of the blue. It kind of manifested itself on Tuesday, I would say. But to be honest with you, let's just go ahead. Let's stop mincing words here. Let's go ahead and get into our Purple Rain report.
There it is, man. Breaking news yesterday came out. Uh, there was like a tweet the Ravens dropped, we got him or something like that. And then sometimes, people tweet something without a picture, but then about 5, 10 minutes later, it was a literal photo of Jaire Alexander signing the contract, pen in hand, and then with EDC and Lamar. And I do want to give a big shout out to the Ravens for keeping this in house. Lamar and EDC must have known on Tuesday when Lamar was like, "Go get him, Eric." You don't something like that doesn't happen that quick in less than 24 hours, or it may, but this was definitely I feel like in the works. But it did happen. The Ravens, man, got arguably the best free agent I want to say out there on the market for a very good
Yeah,
price.
for sure. Definitely. I mean, I definitely say the best bang for your buck, the best value acquisition that the Ravens have gotten, honestly, and I want to say in recent history, but well, that Rashad Bateman one was pretty good considering his age and how well he's been. But that's another story for another day. Jaire Alexander is now a Raven, man, and this only bolsters the defense, specifically the secondary, of course, and it makes the addition of Chidobe Awuzie that much more of kind of like a luxury and a depth piece. Him being an outside corner himself, we kind of expected him to fully go into the season and be the outside cornerback number 2 behind Nate Wiggins, right? But listen, man, like going back to the value piece of it, right? Getting him for $6 million, right? 4 million guaranteed and 2 million in incentives. That is an absolutely insane deal, especially considering he was scheduled to make $16 million this year from the Green Bay Packers, or he is scheduled to make 16 mil from them. It's kind of like a prove it deal, a prove it year really for Jaire Alexander. And I do believe that he's going to step up. And one of my main things, and Alex, I want to talk about this, and I want the rest of the chat to kind of answer this as well. Like, what are like one of the most things you're excited about having Jaire Alexander in a Ravens uniform for? Some people might say, oh, because like he is one of those quote unquote dogs, right? Like he's chippy, like he fits the Ravens, he fits the AFC North. To be honest with you, it's such a surprise that he's been in the NFC all this time, right? Is it that, or is it the fact that for me, I'll just speak for myself here. I think that him being a Raven now and being a veteran and being so close to the team already, right, and talking about like the camaraderie and things like that, that kind of happens in that Ravens locker room. I would love to see him be a mentor for Nate Wiggins. As an outside cornerback, I think that that's something that a lot of people haven't really talked about yet, but I think that Nate Wiggins is definitely next up in this league as a top 10 corner. I think this is going to be his breakout season. And having bringing in a guy like Jaire Alexander, somebody who kind of shares that same sort of moxie, right, as Nate Wiggins, if you really think about it, right? Like Nate Wiggins is almost like a younger Jaire Alexander, if you really, really think about it in terms of like, their personalities, things like that. Of course, we don't know these guys personally, but I think that those two will kind of hit it off, and I really do expect like a good mentorship kind of relationship between Jair and Nate Wiggins, and I think it's really going to bode well for Nate.
I mean, if I'm talking about what I'm looking forward to most about it,
Yeah,
or what I think I take most out of it is, I feel like to me this is the one of those signings you make that shows your star quarterback, like, if you really want something, we'll get it for you. And I think it goes more to, more showing like to Lamar, why I think he should stay. Because right now, man, let's be real, we didn't need Jair. Not at all. I don't think he wasn't in need. I think cornerback maybe our fourth or fifth most, needed position. But this is a guy he out there we know he vouched for. He has a history, this is the type of stuff that you make your best player happy and it makes him want to stay here. And that's kind of what I'm more looking at. You're helping him out, not really per se who he's throwing to or who he's getting to, but like he can force turnovers and get you the ball back in your hand more. So to me, it shows more that we will support you and we will keep building around you as long we're on the team. But now looking for a pure aspect now, it's getting turnovers in the playoffs. To me, that's really what it is. Uh, you can move him around, you can move Marlon around, you can move Nate Wiggins around. If one guy's having a tough game, you can put somebody else on the number one receiver. It just is so much flexibility, and now he's with coaching with Chuck Pagano, too. That's kind of the whole thing. There's so many aspects of this, but it just fits in so many possible ways, and I couldn't be happier about it. Just get a notification. We're truly all in, and I'm gonna say it now, it's really Super Bowl or bust. This team is way too talented. We have too many players on this team that it has to be this year. And I know I'm setting myself up for failure possibly, but it's got to be this year. Like, there's really no excuses for me anymore.
no, yeah, I mean, I agree. We'll talk about the whole, no excuses season here in a minute, as we have in the past couple of years on this podcast. But no, I mean, you go back to saying, I go back to you saying that this is actually really just a luxury pick. We didn't necessarily need a Jair Alexander. Like, yeah, I mean, we really only got him because, well, I don't want to say only, but I think a very, very large chunk of the reason why we went after him is because of his relationship with Lamar Jackson. If it hadn't been for that, I think that there'd have been a much, much lower chance that a Lamar Jackson would have been able to um, kind of get that fulfilled, because I know he's always wanted to play with certain players, and Jair Alexander was definitely on that list, especially with them going back to Louisville. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely luxury. It's basically like Lamar Jackson's Birkin bag, right? He doesn't need it, but he really, really wanted it, So the Ravens got it for him. Eric DeCosta said, "You know what? I'm going to open up the checkbook. I'm going to go get your boy." Right? So I really love the move, man, and I think that this actually impacts the rest of the defense as well. I think about the defensive line when I think about this Jair Alexander acquisition. I think about just how much pressure, just how many sacks, right? I feel like without a shadow of a doubt, I mean, the Ravens were second in sacks last year, first in sacks the year before that, 2023 and 2024, respectively. In 2025, I really do believe that there is no reason why the Ravens should not lead the league in sacks. I mean, we should be getting manufactured pressure. We should be getting pressure with a four-man rush. We should be getting coverage sacks. Everything, all of the things. Like, I just think that this move here with Jair Alexander, because think about it, Alex, think about it. Where are you going to go with the football? Where are you going to go with the football? Like, where do you attack? I think that prior to the Jair Alexander move, and granted, this is all if he can stay healthy and available on the field. Do not get me wrong. He's got to stay available. The best ability is availability. I understand that through and through. But Alex, again, think about it. What are you going to target on the Ravens defense? Like, what are you going to target in that secondary? I mean, like, are you going to try to bully Nate Wiggins? I don't think that that's too smart. He's a young stud corner. Are you going to try to bully a veteran Jair Alexander, who I have some stats on, some next gen stats on him, and since like 2021, I mean, the guy's like top 5 in the league in like forced tight window throws, right, for cornerbacks, right? So he's glued to his guys, aka, you know what I mean? So like, where do you go? I mean, do you go to the middle of the field? Do we go after Kyle Hamilton? Do we go after Malachi Starks? Do we go after Roquan Smith and Trenton Simpson? Maybe that's the weak link, weak link over the middle of the field. We saw that in years past as well. So I think that this just kind of like it sets up the rest of the defense for success. But based off of what I just said, I know I just said a lot. What do you think about all of that?
It's to me the linebackers have to step up. I don't think
Okay,
Roquan
okay.
played to a $100 million contract level last year, and Trent Simpson got benched, and that's just the cold hard facts because he did get benched. And are we surprised that it came out today that the Ravens were talking to CJ Mosley before he retired? Um, he wouldn't have passed the physical, but we both had mutual interest in bringing him back. He wanted us, and we wanted him. Didn't happen. So that's why he drafted Teddy Buchanan, and that's why Simpson's your starter now, but you've got to see a growth, and I hope he can bring that. But man, I think it's gonna be target in the middle of the field. Tight ends, you gotta really lock them down. We know Hamilton can lock him down, but where is he gonna play? The third safety is now a big question. I see people saying Justin Simmons. That's kind of even more luxury at this point now, but I get why you're saying it. So I feel like that's target in the middle of the field. So how can we stop that? I mean, Zach Orr, I think we have a lot of faith in him to stop it. But as for defensive backs, we've had too many times where we have just Jags out there, just a guy. And to be honest, I'm kinda happy with, having TJ Tampa as my 5th option or 6th option, and Jalen Armour Davis out there who's getting reps at safety over a Kevon Seymour most respectfully, and a Robert Jackson, My you really wanna give me your Ravens cornerback depth right now. Give me your 1 through 4 or 5. It
Yeah, I mean, shoot. I mean, you can go. I made a video about it yesterday after the Jaire signing. I mean, I go Marlon Humphrey, who was how many? You know what? Real quick, can you look this up for me? How many interceptions did Marlon Humphrey have last season?
I'm gonna say 5 or 6.
5 or 6. And where does that rank in terms of corners in the league
It was in the top.
last year?
Oh, it was in the top 10%.
I, so I mean, I think in the Big 25, right? I'm gonna put Marlon Humphrey, who's kind of had like his ups and downs, but like at this point in his career, I mean, for him to still be making plays, especially like the ones he did last year, and then I see the chat here saying 6. Thank you guys so much. Um, yeah,
3rd.
with him playing the way he was third in picks last season.
1 in corners. Top 2 are safeties.
Okay, see, so out of all cornerbacks in the National Football League last year, Marlon Humphrey was number 1 in interception. So I still will put Marlon Humphrey just out of respect and production at number 1. At number 2, I would go, of course, I would go Nate. Number 3, I'm gonna go Jaire Alexander only because it's kind of sight unseen. I remember I also said best ability is availability. That's something I take very seriously. I know you as well. And then 4, we're gonna have to go Awuzie.
Are we mad at that?
Not at all.
I'm not.
Not
I
at all. And it's funny because Tanja Bowman, I see her in the chat here. Let me go ahead and highlight her comment that she brought up. She says Zaire will hopefully not have to play all the snaps with Awuzie, which should help him stay healthy, and our strength and conditioning should help as well, and his eagerness to play good with us. Yeah, I mean, all those things, very, very valid points. We didn't bring up her last point, his eagerness to play good with us. You mentioned about Lamar Jackson and the relationship there. I think that even with like this same thing goes for DeAndre Hopkins as well. And I want to bring up him and a little bit later as well. But same thing goes for him. I think that bringing these vets in who have already seen from outside looking in, the Ravens are so close, so close, so close. It's even more special for Jaire Alexander because he has that special relationship with Lamar Jackson. Literally the day before Jaire signed with the Ravens, and we hadn't talked about this because we didn't stream Monday or Tuesday. Um, he basically said at the presser, Lamar Jackson that is, he said, "Hey, Eric, go get him." And I think at this point we all kind of know like Lamar knew something by then, right? Like I don't think he would have just like came out and really just put his GM on the spot on the hot seat like that in front of the national media. But yeah, man, I think that Jaire has an extra motivation to kind of play well with this team, give it his all, and just make a Super Bowl push.
And you mentioned, your top 4. So that's your 4 starters. Now let's mention who we didn't talk about.
Okay,
TJ Tampa,
for yeah,
Jalen Armour Davis, Robert Longerbeam, and Bilal Kone. I mean, outside of Armour Davis, those 3 right there have been drafted either this year or last year. So you're letting your younger guys getting all this experience in preseason, can come in, maybe not in high leverage situations and get maybe possible good playing time. But that's kind of how you build a really good team, I think. And another thing is like if the Eagles were to do this, well, nope, there goes Howie. He's done it again. But the Ravens now, like this is an Eagles move because I mean I see people saying we needed him, but to me, I mean it's a luxury to a point. But if he wasn't Louisville alum, didn't play with Lamar, we're not getting him like you said. He's not going to take that pay cut and want to play here. So I just got to take my hats off to EDC. I've criticized him in the past, but I think this year, with what he's done, I think he's done everything right. Um, this is big, man. This is very big.
Yeah, absolutely huge. Let me see what some more of you guys are saying here in the chat. I see Abdi Hassan says, "Why did Mike Green still not sign his rookie deal?" Not sure,
Um,
but the fact. Go ahead.
I
Yeah,
can
go
tell
ahead.
you, it happens a lot with second round picks. Um,
Oh, they're trying to get the guaranteed money, right?
it's also in between the first round picks are making a good sum, and then there's a big drop off to the third round. So look and see how many second
Mm,
round picks aren't signed. It's normal. It always happens. It's just kind
got
of
you.
balancing in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. And that's interesting too because I think there's been kind of like a changing of the guard in terms of like player empowerment in the league. And since guys with NIL money are coming to the league now, and cap space is inflating because these new TV deals and all these things that the NFL's got going on, um, I think that players are coming in just kind of naturally expecting a heftier price tag to be put on them. As they're kind of ushering themselves into this league. So a second round pick, I assume that the drop off in salary between the first and the second round would be pretty steep, and especially like a third round pick and beyond. So those second round guys, like they definitely are fighting for their life at the negotiation table. I would assume a lot of those guys. So yeah, perfectly normal. But I think that the Ravens. Well, I think I know for sure that the Ravens will go ahead and get a deal done with Mike Green sometime in the near future, and he will be officially rushing the quarterback for the Ravens.
Yeah, and ESPN real quick has our a projected starting defense. Can I just read this out to you real quick? And
Yeah, yeah, go ahead for sure.
so this is what they have projected. So our line: Matabike, Travis Jones, Broderick Washington, Kyle Van Noy, Trenton Simpson. I'm sorry, Odafe Owe. Then linebackers: Roquan Smith and Trenton Simpson. Here's our secondary: Nate Wiggins, Jaire Alexander, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks. So that's a base 3-4 defense they have us in. Uh, a lot of names I didn't read, but that's our starting 11 right now. So if we line out week one, Sunday Night Football, after Tyler Luke bangs one through the uprights, hopefully, they start the 30-yard line, wherever it is. That 11 comes out. How are we feeling?
Man, I'm feeling like that's locked down. Like there's just, I mean, of course there's always going to be some growing pains in a season. I do expect it to be a little bit bumpy along the way, especially with the schedule being so tough, in the first month and a half or so. But again, man, I think I saw our guy Jason from at Huddle It Up Films. He tweeted this yesterday, and shout out to him. He said that he doesn't look at it as like the Ravens are going through a gauntlet. Like all those teams have to deal with us, And when you list all those players like you just did, that's just the defensive side of the football. We haven't even started talking about Lamar Jackson and company on the offensive side of things. But just the defense itself is just like it has the potential to be a very smothering, a very high turnover forcing defense, and that's what I'm really like kind of like aiming for. I'm hoping for at least, turn the football over. Marlon Humphrey said it the other day, at a presser. He said, your defense could be, in so many words, he basically said, your defense can be so good, but it's only but so good if you're not turning the ball over. That's what really makes a great defense is turning the football over. And the Ravens have not been able to do that, especially not in, the Lamar Jackson era in the playoffs, right? I think they've only maybe done it twice, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. If you know for sure, drop it in the chat. But I think it's only like twice we've turned the ball over in the playoffs or turned a team over. So, you know, very very important there, but like you said, again, I'm just not mad at that at all. Like I really do have high expectations for this Ravens defense. I just hope that everybody stays healthy, and I hope that Zach Orr can really kind of be the maestro to this orchestra, you know what I'm saying, and really kind of blend everything together. We've got a slew of great defensive coaches. The staff is great, the roster is great, everything is lining up, and again, give credit to EDC. To me, it's EDC and Howie Roseman. Those are the best two GMs in the league. To be, if I'm being honest with you, you may make arguments for the Chiefs, the Rams, a couple other teams as well. But I think that Howie and EDC have really put their teams in prime position to win big, and it's just the Ravens just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, Veach up there, I think John Lynch up there, and Tampa. They've built a really good team without buying a lot. But
Yeah,
I mentioned that starting 11 for the Rams. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I left out a bunch of names. All right, and here's the quote unquote backups. Aeneas Peebles, John Jenkins, C.J. Ravenel, Tavius Robinson, Jacob Hummel, Teddy Buchanan, Mike Green, T.J. Tampa, Sanusi Kane, Bo Braid, Chidobe Awuzie, and Robert Longerbeam. So that's the backups to our starting 11 with some starting caliber players in there as well. So hopefully by the end of the year, Mike Green to me is starting. I don't know whose spot I want him to take, but I hope he's playing good enough, to take that spot over. But that's looking pretty good to me right there. I'm really liking it. Not expecting 2,000 Ravens, but with just what we have, I think, and the coaching we brought in, I'm just really excited for Chuck Pagano and hear Marlon say, this team needs to get turnovers. That's just music to my ears. I just got to see it now, honestly.
yeah, absolutely. I'm seeing here in the chat, my guy Rod Wave in the house. What's going on, Rod Wave? Appreciate you for coming through. He says we got to get Mike Green in there ASAP. Talking about the Ravens rookie pass rusher out of Marshall, 17 and a half sacks last season there. I think that, and I've said this before, the Ravens should not baby, a Mike Green. They shouldn't waste too much time trying to ramp him. I think that they should. I don't want to say throw him to the wolves. We've got some really good pieces at edge already. Owe and Van Noy kind of being our bookends at the moment, but get that guy his reps. Get him enough reps to get him some confidence, to get him some rhythm, and we could potentially see. I put it like this: Mike Green is one thing, but we also drafted Malachi Starks before Mike Green in the first round. If either one of those two guys pop, then I really don't see. I mean, we talk about the roster, right? Like, if either one of those two rookies outperform their expectations, man, I think this Ravens defense could be number one in the league, just like in 2023 again.
And you bring up, Mike Green snaps. I just pulled up OA 2021. His
Mm,
first 3 games, he played over half of the snaps, and then game 2, 75%, game 3, 80%. So we didn't, thankfully rush away in there. I mean, we throw him to the wolves, So
yeah, yeah,
if we can do with Mike Green, what I mean? Like KVN, I get he's looking good, did the water fasting, but when you have a guy like Mike Green, he just brings something that I think we don't have on this team. Honestly, it's just another aspect you got to worry about.
yeah, yeah. A huge aspect. I see Taquan in the chat says, "What's up, Rain Gang? Sutton and Alex, what's going on, Taquan? Appreciate you for pulling up, coming through." I see Mod Roosh has popped out. Says, "What's good, Rain Gang? Do we have the best secondary in the league?" I think we do. I think we do. We've been talking about it the last 15, 20 minutes now. I mean, I think that the Ravens secondary is really second to none. It's second to none, man. What do you think, though?
I mean, according to a rookie in the NFL who hasn't played a snap, bear down. With all due respect, I know you saw
Yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did see that Luther
We
Burden.
don't
Yeah,
have a guy, celebrating before a Hail Mary and Jaden Daniels puts it past you. That's all I'm gonna say. I think we have the best secondary. Just gonna put it out.
I do too, for sure. And that's not just the purple glasses. I mean, I think if you look at like just the safety position alone, right? Having arguably the best safety in the league to pair up with a top 10 corner and then a young emerging star at corner and then a first round pick opposite Kyle Hamilton at safety. It's like, and then you also have, I don't know how many Pro Bowls Jaire Alexander has been to, but I know it's been a good amount, right? Like this guy is very decorated in his own regard. So I think that, all those things considered, you've got the young talent, you've got two veteran talents, you've got the young safety who's absolute dog. I mean, it just really doesn't get too much better than that. Other teams I think have like really good like one-off corners, like a really good corner. Like, I'd say like a who's the opposite corner of a Pat Surtain on the outside with the Broncos? Do you know?
I know you're talking about. I should know
Can't
because
remember
to
his
me the
name.
Broncos are like one of the top 5 defenses in the league.
Yeah. I can't remember his name right now. It's escaping me.
No ball knowledge.
Um, it's all good. It's all good, man. It's the dead of the off season, man. Like normally in season, like that'll be like top of the head,
Yeah.
for guys like us. But mid off season, if you know, let us know in the chat. But okay,
One more thing.
let's go. Yeah,
I
go
have
ahead.
one
Yeah.
thing that went through my mind for Jaire Alexander. Not
Yeah.
only is he playing with Lamar, he gets to play the whole NFC North. Week 10.
Ooh.
Week 10, he plays the
Ooh.
Vikings. Jaire and Justin Jefferson will be cinema. I'm telling you that right now. I that
Yes.
that circle,
Yes.
the Bears is circled.
Okay.
All
Yep.
right. Lions obviously circled.
Yeah.
I think that's the Packers though. That game, it wasn't a
Mm.
pretty
Mm.
ending. They're going back and they told him to take a pay cut. He didn't take it.
But
That game against
yes,
the Vikings though, I need him grittying. I love Justin Jefferson, love him. I need a Jaire gritty on him after a big play. I need it.
I would love that. I mean, he's done the gritty in Minnesota before. Like he is not, shied away. He's not shying away from being that kind of player. But I think more importantly, Alex, I mean, he plays Pittsburgh twice a year. He plays Aaron Rodgers twice a year.
Please,
Like
I play Diggs too. Oh,
like bro, that is going to be you talk about cinema. Again, if you're Aaron Rodgers and like you are literally 100,000% reliant on your arm, to get you by as a quarterback in the NFL, which is no problem because he's got a very talented arm, one of the best of all time. I just don't know. Man, those Steelers games are going to be fun. I'm going to leave it at that, bro. I just don't think that, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to kind of like bully anybody on that defense, especially when you got to have it. You know what I mean? Like 3rd and 9. I mean, you've got DK Metcalf out there, Calvin Austin, a couple other guys. Who was the other? Who was it? Who's the
Riley
other
Moss.
receiver?
That's the cornerback you're talking about. I think yeah, Riley Moss.
Okay, yeah, 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 yeah.
What you said there.
But now I'm thinking, is it
Steelers.
Robert? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They have Robert Woods. They have Roman
yeah,
Wilson,
yeah,
who
yeah,
was
yeah,
hurt last
yeah,
year.
yeah. Robert Woods. That's what I was thinking. But yeah, man, I just don't see where Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to go with the football. Jair knowing him so well, them being teammates back in Green Bay. I'm sure that it works vice versa the other way around too. But those matchups are going to be so much fun, man. I cannot wait. I can't wait.
All right, we can move on. I'm sorry. I just remember him playing NFC North. I mean, you get the bet. You get to play with your college teammate and play your old division that you don't like already. Then like somebody mentioned, let me give you the credit because uh, somebody said Diggs too, and yeah, him and Diggs don't have a good relationship at all. Yep, DB said it. He does. You can look up their matchup. I think in 22 when the Packers and Bills played, him and Diggs went at it all game. It was
Yeah.
it was cinema. So he gets that win as well, and he gets to play against Jamar, which probably the best wide receiver in the league right
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Jamar Chase is, I think, definitely number one. My number two is a little bit controversial. I would put AJ Brown there. That's just me though. Just just because of how he dominates a game, how he can really take over a game. That's just me. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, man. Jair versus Diggs. That'll definitely be a fun one. Kind of diva on diva there in a couple of ways, like and when I say diva, I just mean like big personality receiver cornerback matchup. That's just how it goes, man. But we love to see it. I can't wait to see those guys face off, even though it won't be until later in the season. um Let me see here what else we have from you guys in the chat. Let me see. Ravens play so bad at Pittsburgh, says Rod Wave. Yeah, but I think the tide is going to start turning on that. A little bit. I think we saw last year with those last two matchups between the Ravens and the Steelers. The Ravens kind of have the Steelers number right now, and unless the Steelers come out and are doing something totally different, like different from what guys like, I think what was it? Julian Edelman went on a podcast and talked about how the Steelers have been doing the same stuff since he was around and in his heyday. Like they really haven't changed their thing. If they don't really make major changes, then I don't necessarily see the Steelers being too much of a problem for the Ravens. At least not on paper. Things could change though.
now. Yeah, I think once you get that monkey off your back, I think it was in the back of our minds, but now we've broken the curse. Yeah, I think we're past
Yeah.
that.
I can agree. I can agree. 74 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this episode of the Purple Rain podcast. This is episode 316. Make sure you like the video if you are on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new and enjoying the content. If you're watching on X, hello to you as well. Maybe you pop over to YouTube when you're done and hit the subscribe button, or follow us on Twitter or Instagram. You see Simply AS10 and Sutton Def, and then you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain podcast. Okay. So I want to go ahead and I want to talk about something that Lamar Jackson said this week, after mini camp was over and all wrapped up. He spoke about DeAndre Hopkins, right? DeAndre Hopkins came up in a question, and Lamar can say it. He can explain it better than I can. So I'll shut up and I'll let Lamar Jackson tell you what he had to say about D Hop so far.
See, that guy don't do it. He's different, man. I seen him. I threw him like a shallow today. Caught the ball so smooth, got up. Like, I don't even think he put his other hand on the ground to get up. He just caught the ball and just started. I'm like, bro, that's some vet type stuff, like some super vet type stuff, you know? It's just dope to have him, man. I'm looking forward to throwing a lot of touchdowns to him this year.
Looking forward to throwing a lot of touchdowns to him. Oh, that gives me goosebumps. And just thinking of the routes they're running there, thinking of the red zone. D Hop gets lost in traffic. Maybe some linebackers and corners get confused, and there he is, just open. Makes a vet move in for a touchdown. But like you said, stuff like that is the stuff you really can't draft, can't teach. You just learn it over time. And he's our wide receiver 3. I was iffy about the signing at first, but I mean, when you really sit back and think about it, he's our wide receiver. He's our third option as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good. We've been in the pits of hell, and now we're out.
Yeah, and like honestly, I mean, forget the fact that he is our third wide receiver. Like that's where we rank him. But like, where do opposing defensive coordinators
Yeah.
rank him? You know what I mean? Like, where are they going to rank him in terms of like the priority list going into Ravens week? You know what I'm saying? Like, are we going to put cornerback number 1 that we have the most faith in? 2 or 3 on DeAndre Hopkins. We know this guy is getting older, but we still know what he is, ultimately capable of. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I see Black Daniels in the chat. What's going on? Black Daniels says, every day I forget we have D Hop. Man, I mean,
Yeah.
a sneaky acquisition that was made early in the offseason that now nobody's really talking about, but I think it will kind of show up again and kind of remind everybody early on in that season. I think that first primetime game against the Bills, we'll see a couple of good catches from DeAndre Hopkins. But, I mean, like you said, I mean, you just get goosebumps listening to that, right? I mean, like Lamar Jackson saying, like, he can't wait to throw so many touchdowns to this guy. That is going to be a connection if we've ever seen it before. And like we talked about earlier, I mean, Lamar Jackson gets what he wants, right? I mentioned earlier on the show, I joked that Jaire Alexander is kind of like Lamar's Birkin bag that EDC got him, a little designer bag here. Just have this. I know you want it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just have it. I'm spoiling you. You deserve it. Cool, have it. But especially because, Lamar Jackson cannot directly utilize Jaire Alexander because he plays defense. But this is a guy, DeAndre Hopkins, who just like Odell Beckham Jr., who Lamar Jackson also requested and was kind of public about that as well. This is a guy he requested. I think that he will definitely be, and I say it all the time, he will be intentional about getting DeAndre Hopkins the football. This all but confirms it. Lamar Jackson saying he can't wait to throw him a bunch of touchdowns. So I think in the red zone, right, where things get really tight and teams have to, and when I say have to, they have to account for where Mark Andrews is at, and they have to account for where Zay Flowers is scurrying off to, and they have to account for Isaiah Likely if he's also on the field and we're running that personnel. But DeAndre Hopkins is kind of going to get lost in all the noise, if, for lack of better words. He's going to get lost in all the music, and I feel like he'll be wide open for a lot of touchdowns. And I think that him and Rashad Bateman are kind of going to feed off of each other as well in terms of the route running and things. It's just like Black Daniel said, every day I forget we have D Hop, but like when I do remember, I remember just how dangerous, if he can turn the clocks back, which guys tend to do when they come to the Ravens. People want to call the Ravens a retirement home. Go ahead, go right ahead. But the Ravens are knocking on that door for a Super Bowl, and I don't mean to say, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, like set ourselves up for failure again and what's been happening in the past couple of seasons. But I mean, the acquisitions we've made, and specifically talking about DeAndre Hopkins here, I mean, that is a very, very underrated one that I think a lot of people will see the impact of week 1 against the Bills.
Yeah, and I think about the way people kind of looked at it, and me as well. I'm guilty. I thought when we signed him, like, oh, great, like that's another. I hate to say, Jeremy Maclin, guys like that, but I was thinking of him as a wide receiver one, and we're no longer in the conversations for needing that one. We know we have a bunch of guys who who can go out there and make plays, and we saw it last year. We have a Pro Bowl wide receiver in Zay Flowers. But I just sit back, I've seen a lot of slander about the Ravens, but last year I remember Henry was called washed, D-Hop was called washed, and Jaire was I-word prone. I mean, I'm not gonna forget, after that week 1 outing against the Chiefs last year, I think a lot of non-Ravens fans wrote off Derrick Henry. 52 yards and a touchdown, and like, "Oh, you're gonna pay this 20 million." I didn't forget. And now it's, Lamar needs a super team. I feel like once again we're seeing the goalpost moved in real time. I'm really seeing that, and I'm not gonna sit here and let it, be the truth. Yet we're just
Well,
putting talent around Lamar. You know what I mean? They're not. They're washed when we get them, but when they perform, you know what I mean. Let's make them.
that's gonna be the narrative, bro. Like, I'm sorry, but like that's just where we are as a franchise right now. Like, come December and early January, right? Everybody's gonna be saying, when the MVP talks start to heat up again. Granted, if Lamar stays healthy all season, he has a great season like we expect him to do. They're gonna say, "Oh, well, look at the team around him." There's no way that he could be the most valuable. Or let's just say, hypothetically speaking, if Lamar Jackson and the Ravens they do end up winning the Super Bowl this season, the narrative is gonna be like, "Oh, they had to surround them with all these pieces, right? They had to surround Lamar with all these pieces in order for him to get it done." In year 8, it took that long, right? So I mean, either way, the Ravens are going to face some pushback for the roster that they have constructed. But the way I look at it, that's a very good problem to have. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people looked at the Eagles, and Eagles fans feel very strongly about this as well. A lot of people like to criticize Jalen Hurts, and they say, "Oh, Jalen Hurts is nothing special at all. I mean, he's really just a tush push merchant, and just because look at the team around him. The defense is absolutely stout. Offensive line, defensive line. You know what I mean? Like everything is really good. Skill position players, all that. Everybody's really really good. But again, it's a good problem to have, and it's the way your franchise is supposed to be run. You're supposed to have a good GM who puts together these pieces, right? You're not supposed to just get it out of the mud every single year. This is what building up a successful franchise looks like, period.
And I think the best example of that was the Buccaneers in 2020. Why were they missing the playoffs with Jameis Winston at quarterback? They added
Mm,
Gronk, AB, and Tom Brady. They were on the back end, and they got AB midseason. Gronk was, there at one with Brady too. But that's kind of what a good quarterback and a couple of, pieces that are familiar with that quarterback can really do. The Buccaneers defense was exactly the same. I mean, they added, I think, Sue. That was about it. But everybody they had was on there already. Their line was the same. Their receivers were the same outside of AB. They won a Super Bowl. So it's not like I don't know. You have to have a good quarterback as well to win a Super Bowl. Same with Stafford. He went to the Rams, wins the Super Bowl. They added really Odell. That was the only main ad they had, but they lost Robert Woods. Eh, You can have all the talent in the world and not a good quarterback, and you can see what happens. You take Lamar off the team and put in, I hate to say it, Tyler Huntley. How many games do we win?
I mean, I'd say at most, I'd say like 7 or 8.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And that's just off the strength of just like becoming a fully run reliant team. You know what I mean? Like, are we talking Tyler Huntley? Just if you drop Tyler Huntley right now in the Ravens offense,
Right
right now, yeah, with Derrick Henry and all that, yeah, for sure. Then I said like maybe 7, 8 wins, but again, nowhere near to your point what Lamar Jackson would produce for sure.
now. So, and well, like I said, we saw last year how they gave, the whole Josh Allen Lamar stuff, how we had the roster. You pull up every show before Henry was washed. Like I said, Nick Wright didn't think he would hit 1,000 yards rushing. And these are
Yeah,
guys who have MVP votes. But I'm not gonna get back
yeah,
on that. It's over. It's over. We're looking for next
yeah. Black Daniel says here, why is Lamar not supposed to have the best constructed roster possible? It is a team sport, and yeah, that's kind of like our whole point here, man. You look at like, for example, look at like basketball. The NBA is currently showing you that like it's a team sport. Like it's less kind of like star driven, like solely, right? Um, the years that the Chiefs have gone to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl, their defense has been stout, right? Most of the years that Tom Brady took his teams to the Super Bowl and won it was when the defense was stout. when he had good rosters around him. Like these are things that actually matter. And like I said again, relating it back to the NBA and basketball, like now you're seeing, you know, teams with a big two or like a big three with no bench and no depth and no like well constructed, you know, full roster. Those teams are falling off, right? And it's kind of more so favoring deeper rosters and more complete, well rounded teams. So again, it is a very team sport. And, you know, shout out to EDC for kind of realizing that and putting all the pieces around not just Lamar Jackson, but just everywhere to make this thing happen. And it really just boils down to playoff success. And that's another thing that I wanted to bring up to you, Alex, as well. Lamar Jackson, you know, he spoke at the presser the other day, and he had said that, you know, he thinks about the Bills' loss, and I think T. Martin had said in his presser that, you know, Lamar Jackson thinks about it all the time, and it's just something that he doesn't let go, and you know, it bothers him basically in so many words is what he was saying. And my only like concern, my only like fear is that like that mental monkey on Lamar Jackson's back will only continue to grow. Like it only got bigger. Like it was already huge going into that Bills game, you know, this past season. But after that loss, it only got bigger. So like that weight and that pressure is only going to start to mount when you play like the Bills and the Chiefs in the playoffs going forward. So it really does come down to, and this is where I love all of our acquisitions on defense. It really does come down to the defense to really step up, turn the football over, cut the field in half for Lamar, you know, flip the field, things like that. Like that's what it's going to take because it's a team sport. You can't just have Lamar Jackson be Superman in the playoffs because in the playoffs, what do teams like to do the most? They like to take away your best weapon. You know, that's what they try to do. So you got to get it in other ways, and I think that's the way that the Ravens do it. That's the formula.
Yeah, and take as much pressure off of him as you can. Let him get him the ball back. Go score. You scored an opening touchdown against the Bills. You're up 7-0. Imagine
Yeah,
the defense gets a pick right there or a turnover. You're up 14-0. Now it's like, all right, we're up. We can relax. We can run Henry. We can control the time possession and play our game. That's kind of how you make him as comfortable as possible. So I'm hoping this is something that we can, get in Jaire, helps us out in the playoffs and therefore. But I want to pull up this one thing. We talked about like the
sure.
teams and all. The Ravens were 8-4 with well, I mean Rashad Bateman at this point was out for the season. Devin Duvernay, Deshaun Jackson, Demarcus Robinson, and James Prochet. And he was still in MVP talks. Is that how we want to have it? Or do you want to have it where he's in MVP talks again with a better record and better weapons? He's nearly not doing as much as he was. He's still putting up crazy numbers, but he was fighting for his life in those games in 2022. Greg
Yeah.
Roman, like you said, when he went down, we didn't score 20 points. So that's kind of my whole thing. Would you rather him? He's had it both ways. He's had it where he's had nothing, with all due respect. He's had it with weapons. Why is it a problem now? Because he was both getting the same criticisms when he had nobody. My rant.
Yeah, man. No, no. I mean that's totally valid. I mean I understand every point. Man, it's just like you said. It's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of thing when it comes to Lamar Jackson. It seems like, and I mean, it's not just Lamar Jackson. There's a couple other quarterbacks around the league as well who face criticism. I'm not going to act like it's only Lamar and it's only ever been Lamar. That's just, you know. Anyways, I just think that when it comes down to Lamar and his career, I think that everybody sees and knows the potential that this guy has in terms of like long term. Kind of like notoriety in this league. Like well after Lamar Jackson retires, he will be remembered for a long time is basically what I'm saying. And everybody knows that the only thing separating him from already being in like the top 5 quarterbacks of all time discussions, because he's got some accolades and some stats in there where you could like look at and be like, okay, if you just didn't know anything about football and you were just looking at the numbers, you'd be like, okay, this guy right here, number 8, I know the names are all blurred out, but this guy right here looks like he might be one of the best of all time. He's already got like those type of stats in some regards, but the only thing separating him is that ring. And, again, until he gets that mental monkey off of his back in the playoffs, honestly, I think if Lamar Jackson makes a Super Bowl, there's no losing it. I do not see Lamar Jackson losing a Super Bowl. I'm just going to say that right here, right now. That might be me with the purple glasses on. I know it is, as a matter of fact. I mean, we're in June. That's just, my hot take, my little rant. This is my little spiel. But I think that he doesn't lose a Super Bowl, but like we got to get him there. We just got to get him there, point blank, period. Eric DaCosta, again, he put the pieces around him, and like you said, like I would much rather him have the pieces around him, so he doesn't feel like he has to do in 2022 and press and do everything right. Um, you know, that's what I would prefer. That's what I would prefer. We do have a super chat donation. This one's coming from Cheat Gay. What's going on, Cheat Gay? Appreciate you for dropping the 2-piece in the chat, making it rain here on episode 316 of PRP. He says, breaking news: Tyrese Halliburton, who was injured, he was hurt. I'm sorry, with a calf. He will play tonight in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. That's interesting news. I mean, I think he kind of has to play this an elimination game. If the Thunder win tonight, they take it all. By the way, shout out to the Florida Panthers. They did win the Stanley Cup. So I think that with this one here, with Tyrese Halliburton, with this news, I really don't think it matters, to be honest with you. I think that they're forcing Tyrese Halliburton. I know you haven't really been following Alex, but I just want to say, I think that they're kind of forcing him, not forcing him, but he really wants to force himself to play to give his team a chance, because that's the only way that they do have a chance in this Game 6. But I do believe that it's kind of like a foregone conclusion. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and all those guys on the Thunder, they're just a little bit too much for the Indiana Pacers. So, but we'll continue to monitor. Hopefully they do win and they force a Game 7. I would love that too. I would love that too.
Real
Yeah,
quick,
always
can you
love a
bring
Game
up
7. Yeah,
can you bring up Tanja's comment real quick? Our defense has
yeah.
to show up and help Lamar, and she mentioned, what the Eagles did. Because you brought up a great point,
Let's
Tanja.
see.
Except I just brought up the box score play by play. I'm just gonna read you the Chiefs drives in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
4 plays, 12 yards, punt, minute 40. 3 plays, 7 yards, punt, minute 40. 3 plays, 7 yards, minute 38, punt. 3 plays, -6 yards, minute 35, interception, touchdown. 3 plays, -6 yards, 2 minutes and 14 seconds. 1 play, 0 yards, interception. 3 plays, -1 yard, 110. That was just the first quarter. They kept the Chiefs defense, on the sideline for how long? A minute and change? While getting
Yeah.
turnovers, while getting the ball back for their, scoring points. Like, that's what I want this defense to do. Like, imagine you're the defense now and you only have 3 minutes, 4 minutes on the sideline. Got to tackle Derrick Henry again. Got to watch out for Lamar here. He's going to, start running. Got to watch out for Zaire Bate or Hop, or Likely or
Exhausting.
Andrews. That's what we need. And I think that's what's been missing. I think that's what's missing and holding us back from maybe being, winning is that defense, because you can pull it up, the play-by-play. The second quarter, 5 plays, 15 yards, punt, 3 minutes. 5 plays, 17 yards, turnover on downs, 2 minutes. 5 plays, 90 yards, they score a touchdown finally. But when they scored that touchdown, it was 34-0.
Yeah.
That is a difference, I think, between us, crashing out in the playoffs and winning Super Bowl. Defense.
Yeah,
I
man.
need I need that shutdown performance. I need the turnovers, and Marlon Humphrey said it best.
Yep. Yep. Marlon hit the absolute nail on the head. That's really the difference. I mean, turn the other team over and protect the ball on our side, right? Other teams have been able to kind of execute that game plan against us, and as we all know, the team that wins the turnover battle in the playoffs, they win the game 78% of the time. That is not a fabricated stat. It's not pulled out of my ass. That is a fact. Almost 80% of the time, the team that wins the turnover battle in a playoff game in the NFL, that team wins. So it's just that's where it is. I mean, and it also goes back to the offense as well. I mean, Lamar Jackson, you can't fumble. You know what I mean? I know it was a bad snap on the play that he fumbled, but and of course it was in the snow as well. But those are ones where you just kind of got to live to fight another down. Mark Andrews, you cannot fumble. As one of the leaders of this team, like that's just these small things that need to be cleaned up that are the difference between the Ravens being a divisional round exit or a AFC Championship game exit or a Super Bowl berth. So yeah, totally agree with Tanja Bowman there, and we appreciate your comment. Let me see what else we have here before we go ahead and wrap. Killer Cam says, I don't count those last few Chiefs drives of the Super Bowl. I don't either, to be honest
Yeah,
with you. I went out and walked the dog during those last couple of drives, came back, saw the Chiefs had scored like 2 touchdowns or whatever, but it didn't really matter at that point. It was
yeah.
over.
Let's not have anybody get hurt for the celebration and for the parade. Let's have them all healthy. Let's have CJ
Yeah,
Gardner-Johnson and all those guys healthy. I
yeah,
get it.
for sure.
Like I said, everything I read was the first half was,
Yeah,
full strength teams and 34-0. Insane.
right. Let's go ahead and wrap it up with this comment here from Dre. Dre says, I actually hope to have home field advantage this time in the playoffs. I can totally agree there. Obviously we had home field advantage in the 2023 playoffs, hosting the AFC Championship game at the bank. But this one is going to be interesting. The season, rather, is going to be interesting because the teams that we're really going to be contending for the one seed for, or at least projected, we're playing those teams very early on. Bills week 1, I think Chiefs week 4, I believe, right?
Yep.
So those two games right there will be absolutely huge for playoff seeding. Especially if we want to have another AFC Championship game at the bank. Granted, if we do make it there, we have to get the one seed. Got to get the one seed in order to do that. So, in order for the AFC Championship to run through Baltimore once again. But yeah, totally agree. Totally agree there. Any last thoughts, Alex?
I'm right there with you. After going to a night playoff game at the bank against the Steelers, truly a different atmosphere. The only problem, though, I know with the AFC Championship, how pricey those tickets got. I don't want to sit here and, you know, gatekeep or tell someone how to be a fan. But the fans that make the most noise were not at that game. And I'll leave it at that. You know what I'm talking about. Pinky Up was a lot of fans there. Now that Steelers
Got you.
game, it was the guys that are gonna be there. Week 5, week 6, making as much noise, and that it made a difference. It was loud at the thing. That's kind of how I want to have it. I want to have those fans that will come home without the voice at the game, and that's kind of. I'm at the point now. I want the home field advantage. I didn't want it before, and now I want it. I think we're ready
Yeah.
for it.
No, I mean, I agree. Totally agree there. Um, but yeah, let's see. Tanja says, why do the schedule writers always give us those games right off the rip? Give us a chance to get going for once, get some rhythm. That's what I was saying the other week, man. Um, I think that the Ravens, I mean, the schedule makers have not done the Ravens very many favors at all. I mean, it is a very rough opening of the schedule. But again, Tanja, like I said earlier in the show, those teams got to deal with us. We just got done talking about for the past hour how good this team looks on paper. We've seen how well this team performs in the regular season. And as much as us Ravens fans are kind of jaded about the regular season at this point because of what's gone on in the playoffs, the regular season still matters. It still matters. You don't get to the playoffs without having a really good regular season. And you don't get home field advantage without having a really, really good regular season. So it's one of those things where, I think we just kind of have to put faith in our guys. And I know we all do. I know everybody watching who's a Ravens fan right now. I know there's a couple people watching who aren't Ravens fans, but everybody who is, I know that we have supreme confidence in this team to have a really good regular season, barring any I words. Hoping nobody gets hurt. But okay. I think we're going to go ahead and leave it there for this episode 316 of PRP. Again, we want to thank everybody for coming out to this episode of the show, coming out supporting us, leaving comments, leaving your likes, the donations as well. We appreciate it all. You can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast, like you see down below. Our sponsor, Manscaped, you can use our code PRP, 20% off plus free international shipping. You guys already know the drill with that one there. You can follow him on Twitter at SimplyAS10, on Instagram at simplyas10.prod. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at SuttonDef, just like it's spelled down below underneath me here. And with that being said, we love you guys, and I'm going to let my guy Alex take us out.
Thank you for coming through to episode 316 of the Purple Rain Podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, stay positive. Testing.
Yes, yes, yes. And never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. This has been episode 316 of PRP. We're going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.